This is the PlayStation Access Controller, and I've been using it in my setup for a week now. This controller brings some great features which makes the PlayStation more accessible for disabled people, but not without its quirks. So let's break down my thoughts on this device, starting with the software, which is the heartbeat that allows the PlayStation Access Controller to shine. The button assignment customization provides users to freely set up the controls they require, allowing you to map any key binding to any button, additionally providing you the flexibility to add multiple assignments to one button or toggle press activation. This flexibility is really impressive, and one thing that really shone to me whilst using the Access Controller. The ability to create multiple profiles of controls and switch between these at a push of a button also adds an extra layer of customization. However, the limitation of 3 active profile configurations per controller might be a drawback for those who require more dynamic controller configurations during gameplay. Something I found when playing Spider-Man, where I would need to press multiple buttons at the same time. But because of my disability, I cannot do this freely by pressing 2 buttons at the same time, and would then set up the multi-assigned buttons in the profile setup. But with the number of the combinations required to play Spider-Man, I would often run out of space on both the controller and within the profiles, so frequently would be going back into the settings to change my profiles around depending on what key combinations would need to be pressed. By simply increasing the limit of active profiles on the controller, I feel like this would just allow me to access the games quicker and more enjoyable without having to return to the settings every 10 minutes. In games where these combinations aren't required as frequently or there's less of them, the 3 profiles work perfectly. But for me in Spider-Man, I felt like I needed at least another 2 profiles per controller. An excellent feature is the inclusion of a hold indicator when the toggle feature is activated on one of your controllers, preventing any accidental mishaps where you forget that you've got one of your keys toggled on, which I did frequently. Talking about forgetting your inputs, if you forget your profile setup and which buttons are which, a quick hold of the profile button on the Access Controller brings up a brilliant overlay to remind you of which button assignments are to which button, allowing that quick memory refresh of your button assignments before going seamlessly back into your gameplay. Now let's talk about the actual hardware of the Access Controller. The button and joystick style configuration is well thought out, with different button cap styles and joysticks that work effectively. However, whether there is enough variety of stick or button cap styles for the wide range of disabilities that are out there is another matter. But for me, the styles provided work well. The circular shape of the controller I often found posed a small challenge. With this shape, I frequently found it a struggle to reach the buttons close to the joystick without unintentionally knocking the joystick. I can understand the idea of having a circular shape and trying to save space, but it virtually made the 2 buttons closest to the joystick unusable for me. One standout feature is the 3.5mm external device ports for users with assistive devices like switches. These switches provide familiarity and freedom for the Access Controller. I predominantly found it useful being able to connect my 7-puff device, freeing up my hands for other essential functions. Despite its strengths, the PlayStation Controller does have a few downsides. With only 4 external 3.5mm ports on each controller, it falls short for users with multiple external devices. This limitation becomes even more apparent when you compare it to the number of external devices that can be connected to the Xbox Adaptive Controller. On the Xbox Adaptive Controller, you can connect 19 external 3.5mm devices, which compared to the PlayStation Access Controller, you can only add 4 per controller. Additionally, there's a lack of support for external joysticks or switches with dual inputs, such as my 7-puff device. Normally with my 7-puff device, I would be able to have 1 input for when I suck on the device and 1 when I blow into the device, but I couldn't work out how to get this to work on the Access Controller. The lightweight design of the Access Controller, whilst advantageous in some situations, often led to unintended movement of the device whilst I was gaming. While there are screw threads on the bottom of the Access Controller which you can use to attach the Access Controller to your desk, if you don't already have the screws which you can then attach this controller to, it is another cost that you'll have to incur as a disabled gamer. Perhaps the most disappointing aspect of the PlayStation Access Controller for me is the lack of PC support that the device offers. Unlike the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, when you plug in the device with a USB-C cable, the device goes unrecognized on your PC. For me, this absence of compatibility limits its versatility compared to other accessible devices already on the market. I was hoping to be able to use this Access controller as a replacement for my no longer produced Logitech G13, as I really enjoyed using the joystick and the button aspects that both came with this Access controller. But it seems I'll have to continue using the Logitech G13 until a new device that suits my needs comes onto the market. Even though I understand why PlayStation might want to keep it as a PlayStation exclusive device, my opinion is that creating a more accessible gaming world is more important than any sort of silly console war that might be going on. The final issue with the Access controller I'm going to talk about is an issue that carries over from the DualSense and other controllers I've used in the past, and that is the issue of using both joysticks and hitting buttons at the same time. Whenever it came to console gaming, this has been an issue which has plagued me for years. Immediately stopped me from playing fast-paced first-person shooter games or any game that requires both movement, panning around your screen, and carrying out actions all simultaneously. So until a solution is found for this issue, my gaming experience on console will always be limited. In conclusion, the PlayStation Access Controller is a great device for those with disabilities seeking a specific PlayStation gaming experience. However, its restrictiveness and limited external customizations may deter some users from making it their primary gaming setup. If you were to ask me, is the Access Controller worth moving my entire gaming setup across to the PlayStation? My answer would be no. With PC gaming still standing out for me with its freedoms and customizations of being able to use third-party software and third-party devices, making it my preferred choice as a disabled gamer. However, if you have a PlayStation 5 and can see the benefits of the Access controller, I would definitely highly encourage you to get it. So that's my review. Sony, PlayStation, if you want me to love your device and get maximum use out of it, get some PC support on there and I will 100% use it instead of my Logitech G13. If you guys have any other further questions about the Access controller, please let me know in the comments and I will provide as much help as I can, or alternatively, join my Discord and put some questions in there. Hope you all have a good day and I'll see you all soon.